The bakery sat on a corner in the older part of town, the kind of place that had been there for generations and would probably be there for generations more. It had wooden display cases with glass fronts that showed off rows of pastries and cakes, and the smell of butter and sugar hung in the air like a sweet fog. The afternoon light came through the front windows, making everything glow warm and golden. Inside, behind the counter, Mrs. Patterson was wiping down the glass when the little girl came in. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old, with blonde hair pulled into 2 pigtails that stuck out at odd angles, as if she'd done them herself that morning. She wore a pink dress with little flowers on it, slightly too big, and she clutched a small canvas bag against her chest with both hands. Her eyes were wide as she looked at all the cakes in the display cases, and she moved slowly, carefully, as if afraid she might break something. Mrs. Patterson had owned this bakery for 30 years, and she could tell a lot about people by how they walked through her door. This child walked like someone who knew that treats were special, that you didn't take them for granted, that sometimes you had to save up for something sweet. "Hello, sweetheart," Mrs. Patterson said gently, coming around the counter. "Can I help you find something?" The little girl looked up at her with serious blue eyes. "I need to buy a birthday cake," she said, her voice small but determined. "It's for my mama. She's turning 30 tomorrow, and I want to surprise her." "That's very sweet of you," Mrs. Patterson said. "What kind of cake does your mama like?" "Chocolate," the girl said immediately. "She loves chocolate, and she likes flowers, so maybe a cake with flowers on it." She paused, then added quietly, "But I only have $5. She reached into her canvas bag and pulled out a worn $5 bill, holding it up as if it were a treasure, which Mrs. Patterson thought it probably was to her. Mrs. Patterson's heart squeezed. The cheapest cake in her shop was $25, and that was for a small one. A proper birthday cake with decorations would run at least $40. But looking at this child's hopeful face, she couldn't bring herself to say no. "Let me see what I can do," Mrs. Patterson said. "What's your name, honey?" "Emma," the girl said. "My mama's name is Rebecca." "Well, Emma, why don't you look at the cakes and tell me which one you think your mama would like best?" Emma pressed her nose to the glass, studying each cake with intense concentration. She pointed to a beautiful chocolate layer cake with buttercream flowers cascading down one side. "That one," she breathed. "That one is perfect." Mrs. Patterson looked at the cake Emma had chosen. It was one of her special orders made for a customer who was supposed to pick it up in 2 hours. It cost $75. She was trying to figure out how to gently redirect Emma to something more realistic when the bell above the door chimed and another customer walked in. The man who entered was in his late 30s, a black man with close-cropped hair that was just starting to show hints of gray at the temples, and the kind of face that would have been handsome if it hadn't looked so tired. He wore a black coat over a dark shirt, and there was something about his posture that spoke of weariness beyond the physical. In his hand, he carried a small pink backpack with cartoon characters on it, the kind a young child might use for preschool. He moved to stand politely behind Emma, waiting his turn, and Mrs. Patterson noticed he had good manners, despite seeming lost in his own thoughts. "Excuse me, sweetheart," Mrs. Patterson said to Emma. "Let me help this gentleman, and then we'll figure out your cake, okay?" But Emma was already turning around, and when she did, she looked up at the man with those serious eyes and said something that made everyone in the bakery stop and pay attention. "Excuse me, sir," Emma said in her small voice. "Are you sad?" The man blinked, clearly startled. "I what?" "You look sad?" Emma said matter-of-factly. "My mama looks like that sometimes, when she's worried about money or when she misses my daddy." "Are you missing someone?" Mrs. Patterson started to apologize. "I'm so sorry, sir. Children sometimes." But the man held up a hand, and his expression had softened in a way that made him look younger. He crouched down so he was at Emma's eye level, carefully setting the small backpack on the floor beside him. "You know what?" he said quietly. I am a little sad. I am missing someone. How did you know? Your eyes, Emma said simply. They look lonely. The man let out a breath that might have been a laugh or might have been something else. You're very perceptive. What's your name? Emma. I'm James, he said. Nice to meet you, Emma. What brings you to the bakery today? I'm buying a birthday cake for my mama, Emma said proudly, holding up her $5 bill again. She's turning 30 tomorrow, and I saved up my allowance for 3 months. I want to get her that chocolate cake with the flowers because chocolate is her favorite, and she works really hard, and she deserves something beautiful. James looked at the $5, then at the cake Emma had pointed to, and Mrs. Patterson saw understanding cross his face. He straightened up and met Mrs. Patterson's eyes over Emma's head, and something passed between them, a recognition of the situation and what it meant. That's a beautiful cake, James said. Your mom is lucky to have such a thoughtful daughter. The thing is, Emma said, her voice dropping to a whisper, I don't think $5 is enough, but it's all I have. Mrs. Patterson is trying to help me figure out what to do. James was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. You know what, Emma? Today is actually my birthday, too. Emma's eyes widened. Really? Really? James said. I turned 39 today, and I was just thinking on my way here that I didn't have anyone to celebrate with. My daughter is spending the week with her grandma, and I'd probably just go home to my empty apartment and have a quiet evening alone. But you've given me an idea. What if we share that cake? You take it for your mama's birthday tomorrow, and I'll consider it my birthday cake, too. We can be birthday cake partners. Emma frowned, thinking hard. But that's your birthday cake. You should have it. I think, James said gently, that giving your mom a beautiful birthday cake would make me happy. It would make my birthday special to know I helped make someone else's birthday special. Would that be okay with you? Emma looked uncertain. But I should pay for it. I have $5. I'll tell you what, James said. You give me your $5 and I'll add the rest. It'll be a team effort deal. He held out his hand, and after a moment, Emma shook it solemnly. She handed over her $5 bill, and James gave it to Mrs. Patterson along with his credit card. I'd like to purchase that chocolate cake with the flowers, he said, and please add whatever else $5 would buy, maybe some cupcakes or cookies. Mrs. Patterson, who'd been watching this exchange with tears in her eyes, nodded. I'll box up some of our fresh chocolate chip cookies. They're Emma's contribution to the order. While Mrs. Patterson boxed up the cake and cookies, James sat down at one of the small cafe tables, and Emma climbed onto the chair across from him. Why are you alone on your birthday? Emma asked, with the directness only children possess. James smiled sadly. Well, I work a lot. I run a company, which means I'm very busy. And I'm raising my daughter by myself. Her mother and I separated when she was a baby, and she lives out of state now. So it's just me and my little girl, Zoe. She's 5. And somewhere along the way, between work and making sure Zoe has everything she needs, I forgot to make time for friends and family. My parents passed away a few years ago, and I don't have any brothers or sisters. I used to have friends, but I was so focused on work and being a good dad that I stopped calling them back, stopped making plans. And now when I look around, I realize I'm all alone. It sort of snuck up on me. That's sad, Emma said. Everyone should have someone on their birthday. You're right, James agreed. What about you? Where's your dad? Is he helping plan your mom's birthday surprise? Emma's face fell. My daddy died when I was 3. I don't remember him much, just a little bit. Just how he used to sing to me before bed. Mama says he loved us very much, but he got sick and couldn't get better. I'm so sorry, Emma, James said, and his voice was thick with emotion. That must be very hard. It is, Emma said. Mama works 2 jobs now so we can have our apartment and food and stuff. She works at a restaurant during the day and cleans offices at night. She's always tired, but she still reads to me before bed and helps me with my homework. That's why I wanted to get her a really special cake. She deserves something that makes her smile." James had to look away for a moment, and Mrs. Patterson, who was listening while she finished boxing the order, had to wipe her eyes with her apron. He understood that exhaustion, that weight of being the only parent, working hard to provide while trying to still be present. "Your mama is very lucky to have you," James finally said. "Mr. James," Emma said, "if you're alone today, do you want to come to Mama's birthday party tomorrow? It won't be fancy. We're just going to have cake and ice cream in our apartment. But you shouldn't be alone on your birthday, even if it was yesterday." By then, James looked at this child who'd known him for 10 minutes and was inviting him into her home, into her family celebration, simply because she thought no one should be alone. And he felt something crack in his chest. Some wall he'd built around himself to protect against the loneliness he'd been pretending wasn't there. "Are you sure your mom would be okay with that?" he asked. "Mama always says we should be kind to people, especially people who are lonely or sad. And you're both, I think, so yes, she'd be okay with it." Mrs. Patterson brought over the boxes, the beautiful cake, and a container of cookies. James took out a business card and handed it to Emma. "This has my phone number on it," he said. "Ask your mama to call me if it's really okay for me to come to the party. If I don't hear from her, I'll understand. But Emma, thank you. You've made my birthday better than I expected." Emma carefully put the card in her canvas bag. "Thank you for helping me get Mama's cake. You're a good birthday cake partner." James helped Emma carry the boxes to the address she gave him, which turned out to be a modest apartment building 4 blocks away, picking up the small pink backpack as they left. He insisted on making sure she got home safely. And when a woman in her late 20s answered the door, clearly surprised to see her daughter with a stranger and expensive bakery boxes, James quickly explained the situation. Rebecca, Emma's mother, had the same blue eyes as her daughter and the tired but kind face of someone who worked too hard and worried too much. She tried to refuse the cake, saying it was too much, but Emma insisted it was already paid for with her $5 and some help from her birthday cake partner. "I promise I didn't approach your daughter," James said quickly, seeing Rebecca's understandable weariness. "We met at the bakery, and she noticed I was alone on my birthday. She has a very kind heart. I have a daughter myself, so I understand your caution. I just wanted to make sure Emma got home safely. The cake is genuinely from both of us." Rebecca looked at the expensive cake, then at her daughter's proud face, then back at James. "I don't know what to say. This is incredibly generous. Emma invited me to your birthday celebration tomorrow." James said, "I know that's presumptuous, and I completely understand if you'd prefer I not come, but I wanted you to have my card and to know that your daughter is remarkable. She noticed I was lonely and decided to do something about it. That's a gift you've given her, that compassion." Rebecca took the card, saw the company name, and her eyes widened. "You're the CEO of Wellington Enterprises." James nodded. "I am, but today I'm just James, a single dad who met your daughter in a bakery and remembered what it's like to believe. People can be kind to each other for no reason other than it's the right thing to do." That night, Rebecca called James. She told him how Emma hadn't stopped talking about her birthday cake partner, about how hard her daughter had worked to save that $5, about how much the gesture meant to them both. She apologized for initially being suspicious and explained that as a single mother she had to be careful, but she said that if he truly wanted to come to the party, they'd be honored to have him. The next evening, James showed up at their apartment with flowers for Rebecca, a wrapped present for Emma that he'd spent hours picking out, and ice cream to go with the cake. The party was small, just the 3 of them in a tiny apartment that was clean but sparse, decorated with handmade birthday banners that Emma had created with crayons and construction paper. They ate pizza that Rebecca ordered with money she'd saved. They sang happy birthday, and they cut into the beautiful chocolate cake with buttercream flowers. And James couldn't remember a birthday, couldn't remember any evening that had felt more like home. Over the following months, James became a regular part of Emma and Rebecca's life. He came to dinner once a week, helped Emma with school projects, and made sure Rebecca's old car got fixed when it broke down. Emma and Zoe became fast friends, like the sisters neither of them had. He established a scholarship fund in his parents' names and made sure Rebecca was the first recipient so she could cut back to one job and finish the nursing degrees she'd abandoned when her husband died. He also started making changes in his own life. He reconnected with old friends, started leaving work at reasonable hours, and learned that the company didn't fall apart if he wasn't there every minute. He began to build a life that felt full instead of empty, connected instead of isolated. A year after that meeting in the bakery, James asked Rebecca to dinner, just the two of them at a nice restaurant. He'd been careful about his growing feelings for her, aware of the power dynamics and wanting to make sure anything between them was genuine and not based on gratitude or obligation. But his feelings had only deepened, and after months of friendship and family dinners and slowly building something real, he finally told her he'd fallen in love with her. Rebecca, who'd been resisting her own feelings for the same reasons, finally admitted she loved him too. They were married the following spring. In a small ceremony where Emma was the flower girl, Zoe was the ring bearer, and Mrs. Patterson made the wedding cake. James adopted Emma officially, and Rebecca became Zoe's stepmother, and the girls started calling them Mom and Dad, with the comfortable ease of children who felt secure on their first anniversary. As they celebrated with chocolate cake from Mrs. Patterson's bakery, James told Emma that she'd saved his life that day. She walked into the bakery with $5. "I thought I was successful," he said. "I had money and a company and all the things people think mean you've made it. I was doing my best as a single dad, but I was completely alone, and I didn't even realize how empty I was until a 6-year-old girl looked at me and said, 'I looked sad. You saw me, Emma. You saw I was lonely. And instead of walking away, you included me. You invited me to be part of your family when I didn't have one. That's the greatest gift anyone's ever given me.'" Emma, now 8 years old and more confident, but still possessing that same kind heart, hugged him tightly. "You were my birthday cake partner," she said. "Partners don't leave each other alone." Years later, when Emma graduated from college, she gave a speech at the ceremony about the people who'd shaped her life. She talked about her mother, who'd worked 2 jobs and still found time to read bedtime stories. She talked about her father, who died before she could really know him, but whose love she still felt. And she talked about the day she'd saved $5 to buy her mother a birthday cake and had met a lonely single father in a bakery who became her dad. "He taught me that success means nothing if you're alone." Emma said that the most important things in life are the connections we make with each other, and that sometimes the best things happen when we notice someone is hurting and decide to do something about it. "My dad always says I saved his life that day, but the truth is we saved each other. That's what family does." James, sitting in the audience between Rebecca, Zoe, and Mrs. Patterson, who they'd invited to the graduation, wiped tears from his eyes. He thought about the man he'd been 4 years ago, successful but empty, building an empire but missing everything that mattered, raising his daughter alone but feeling isolated from the world. And he thought about the little girl with pigtails, who'd looked at him with serious eyes and asked if he was sad, who'd invited him into her life with no expectation of anything in return. She'd had $5 and a heart full of love, and somehow that had been enough to change everything to build a family, to teach him that the most valuable things in life can't be bought, only chosen. That loneliness isn't a permanent state, but rather a problem that can be solved with connection and compassion and the courage to let someone in. The bakery, where it all started, still stands on that corner in the old part of town. Mrs. Patterson, now retired but still visiting the shop her daughter runs, tells the story to customers sometimes about the little girl with $5 and the lonely single father and the birthday cake that brought them together. It's become part of the neighborhood legend. A reminder that everyday kindness creates ripples we can't always predict, that a child's compassion can heal an adult's broken heart. That family is built not just through blood, but through choosing each other again and again, through all the ordinary and extraordinary moments of life. And that sometimes all it takes to change someone's life is to see that they're hurting and invite them to share a piece of cake, because cake tastes better when it's shared. Just like joy, just like love, just like life itself. That's what Emma taught James in a bakery one afternoon when she had $5, and he had everything except what mattered most. She taught him that the richest life is one filled with people to celebrate with, that success means nothing if you're alone, and that the greatest gift we can give each other is simply to see each other's pain and offer connection. They were birthday cake partners that day, but they became something even better. They became family, and that made all the difference.